Hello and welcome back to the Undungeons Devblog, second edition. This time I am here to show you a couple of things that have been polished up and added in. The first of which is going to be some camera changes. So you might notice the other feature as we're playing through, but I'm focusing on the camera first. So as we move into this second room, illustrated over here, you can see that camera switches directions. And we have a new perspective from which to observe the room. Obviously the original Resident Evil had fixed camera perspectives but changed as you moved between rooms, so we're sort of planning to do something similar. And then as we move back, hopefully, as we move back it will switch back to the original camera for this room. And the second feature, as you saw there, is that the zombies now, rather than just walking in a straight line, will actually make an effort to pursue the player as they go around the world. And some effort has been made. That wasn't a great decision on my part. Let's have a look. Let's run this way. Yeah, as you can see, they can sort of move in all directions, but they don't attack or anything yet, so when they do actually get close to you, they just sort of sit there confused, and they have the ability to merge together. Another less noticeable feature is that the player character actually has collision detection, so right now, if I try to move this way, I won't be allowed to do so, because the enemy is in the way, but if I move left, there will be. Same thing happening here. Can't move into their location. Yeah, so let's have a look at how this all works. First thing we'll show off is the enemy AI. So pretty straightforward in terms of deciding how to move. The AI is aware at all times of the main character game object and can thereby find their transform. And so essentially, it's a little bit messy right now, but it is a long list of if statements that check whether the player is in the top right, bottom left, or top left quadrant. So you can see here I've got up right, and I've got down right, and down left, and up left. So yeah, once it's done that, it knows which direction it needs to move in. So much like the main character, it has a direction counter and it moves on like a grid-based system. So for example, if the main character is in the top right quadrant, I know that the character needs to be on the first position of, so position 0 would be straightforward, position 1 is diagonally up and to the right. So I need them to be, their direction counter to be set to 1. So if it's not set to 1, I then do a calculation to find out whether it would be quicker to turn left or go right, and then make here the rotation and adjust the direction counter as needed to get to number, in this case number 1. And if I am on number 1, so I'm pointing the right direction, then we move forwards in the direction that we are currently looking. With this line over here, you can see the transform position X is modified by X direction, and transform position Z is modified by Z direction. And the same thing happens for here, but because it's in the bottom right quadrant, we're aiming to hit number 3 on the direction counter, and so on and so forth, and number 5 and number 7. Now the diagonals are the only thing that's implemented right now. That's because they're probably the most difficult to do. Moving the character straight and finding out whether the character is in a straight line from where the zombie is relatively easy. So yeah, that will come later. In terms of the cameras. So what it is every single plane object has a room script attached to it, and so the room script is given a position, which is usually, or is intended to be, an object called camera anchor. It's just an empty object that stores a position and a rotation. And so when the player enters the collision box, as we will see here, so on trigger enter, if the trigger is the main character, then we get a reference to the game camera, so the actual camera that is allowing us to see the game, and we copy the position of the camera anchor over to the actual camera, and so it switches between back and forth. And the collision is also pretty simple. The player has a collision check object attached to it, which is just an invisible sort of square that checks the position in front of it and has this collision check script attached to it. And so if with the exception of the camera collision boxes, if anything is overlapping with that collision box that is in front of the player, then it has a reference to the main character script, and it sets the movement, which is public, to 0 or 1, so essentially allows the player to move or not based on that. Yeah. That is all for this video. I hope you find the progress encouraging, and I look forward to any questions that you may have.